You're listening to Top 4, a new series presented by the GamePitch podcast.
Join hosts Brandon and Eli as they build gaming Mount Rushmores every week.
Enjoy topics that range from the best multiplayer types to the top bug Pokemon.
Catch fresh episodes of Top 4 every Wednesday on the Project Nerd Network.
And don't miss new episodes of the GamePitch podcast, dropping every Monday morning.
Let's get ready to rank.
Hello and welcome to the Top 4 and More podcast on the Project Nerd Gaming Network, presented by GamePitch. I'm Elijah. I'm here with my beautiful buddy, Brandon. Brandon, how you feeling?
Elijah, I woke up today and I chose violence.
Oh, why did you choose violence? What happened?
Because we're talking about violence. We're talking about instruments of war.
We are. So if you haven't listened to Top 4 and More before, what we do is we rank a variety of video game topics from our fourth favorite to our first favorite. We go back and forth revealing these things. Sometimes Brandon chooses the list. Sometimes I choose the list. I chose it this time. Brandon, what did I choose?
You chose the top 4 video game swords, my dude.
I did. It was a sharp choice. I was thinking, to myself, how can we cut into this new batch of episodes in the right way? And I thought there was no better way to cleave, this year of 2021 open than with the blades of video games.
I'm not mad about any of those puns. That was just the way that you strung that together so quickly. It was well done, my friend.
Thank you.
Done.
Not planned in any way, shape, or form.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, hey, yeah, let's talk about video game swords. Let's do the thing. What made you choose this?
So I was thinking I kind of wanted to have some bangers because we've got really niche and we've got a little personal, and I wanted to go kind of broad multimedia. So this might be our most basic bitch list because we're going to talk about a lot of popular stuff. And of course we talk about popular stuff on the show, but I think also you and JD playing Ghost of Tsushima and both loving it, and me just disconnecting after one island and just being I suck at this game, this is no fun. And I know I'm wrong because everyone loves that game. So I think that thinking about Ghost of Tsushima, attempting to maybe download it again because I want to play the multiplayer with you and JD at some point, and so it's a part guilt on that part, and then the other part is just swords, man, they're effing rad.
Swords are pretty rad. I'm definitely upset that you don't like Ghost of Tsushima as much as JD and I do, but I'm 100% down for playing that Legends mode together because I have needed an excuse to play it in 60 frames on my PS5. So yeah, let's do it. Let's do the thing.
So we do these things here where we go back and forth, and I think I have a lot of honorable mentions this time. Did you have any?
Yeah, I've got a couple I can talk about real quick. I have the Great Fairy Sword from specifically Majora's Mask. I just really like how pretty it looks.
It is a pretty sword, yeah.
Yeah, usually swords are dangerous looking, and that one's just very pretty.
Yeah.
I got the Blades of Chaos from God of War.
I also have the Blades of Chaos, but ultimately they couldn't make my list because I decided they were a blade and not a sword.
That's exactly why they made it to my honorables. I felt like if I put it on my list, you would have been like, that's a knife. But whatever.
Yeah, sir. Don't bring a knife to a sword fight or a blade to a.
yeah, definitely. And then the final one here, Northern Regalia from Demon Souls.
Okay, I don't know what Northern Regalia is. Can you describe it to the listeners? What it looks like? What you dig about it?
Yes, so the Northern Regalia from Demon Souls is actually 2 swords put together. One sword is completely black and the other one is completely white. When you have the swords separately, depending on your world tendency, whatever, we're not going to get into that. It'll boost your stats accordingly, right? And then once you combine them, you get the combined effect of that as well. So pretty neat.
One sword black, one sword white is very similar to a sword that I'll be mentioning later in this pod here. So this is a pretty cool foreshadowing.
Indeed. But what are your honorable mentions here?
So we have, this is a tried and true rule, and this is anyone who listens to the pod, Star Wars, because there are Star Wars video games. Obviously, you might have them on your list. I put lightsabers on honorable mentions because we always say if we could pick Star Wars stuff, it always would be number one, always, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no,
Okay, so
I
lightsabers,
always exclude Star Wars.
Okay, so lightsabers I excluded, but they're honorable mentions because obviously those. Travis Touchdown's laser blade, which is effectively a lightsaber. Like I don't know if you've seen it. I had, like I said, the Blades of Chaos. I have the Omni tool on here because there are versions of it that are more like a blade and more like a sword, but in the same sense as the Blades of Chaos, it's more of a knife and more of like a shank than really a full-on sword. Even though you wield it, it's like a gauntlet and a sword. It's super weird, but that's from Mass Effect: The Omni Tool. And then I put Ivy's whip sword from Soul Calibur,
Okay.
and then I also put the Monado from Xenoblade Chronicles, and I only know of it from Smash Bros. But it's just like super bullshit because it's like a lightsaber, but then also like a piece of plastic you bomb people in the head with. Like I'm truly not sure what the Monado is. Also, it does time travel. Like I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know a thing about Xenoblade, apparently, as I've learned just now.
Well, yeah, this is probably the blade of the Xeno, maybe. What's his face? Shulk. He wields it. He can
Yeah.
have just pants and no shirt. Like,
The only Shulk skin, of course.
yes, yeah, it's the power of the Monado. Like, whatever. He's so whack. Okay, but those are my honorables.
Very cool. Before we get into our list, do you have anything else you want to say about swords as an opening thought here?
Buddy, it's just like they are a primary. It's like gun, melee, or sorry, it's like guns and then like punching, grenades, and then swords, right? Like, and swords become melees in like so many games. It's like
Yeah.
swords are like in the top 5 weapons in video games clearly, and probably in the top 3. Maybe we'll do that list at some point, but yeah, like swords are up there always.
Always, 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 always. I feel like you can't get much cooler from a visual perspective than, carrying around a sword.
You cannot. So, sir, what is your number 4?
Well, on the subject of looking really cool because of your sword, I have the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII.
So here's a fun story. I'm going to combine ours because I actually put Gunblades from Final Fantasy IX in lieu of the Buster Sword because I knew everyone would pick and want the Buster Sword like on their list, or if you're picking a Final Fantasy thing, you're picking the Buster Sword. And there's
Yeah.
obviously there's variations of the Buster Sword. There's the one from 7, there's the one how it looks in Kingdom Hearts, there's the one how it looks in Advent Children, the one that's like multiple swords in the same like sheath thing. But there are alternate versions of the Buster Sword, but I think everyone knows what you're talking about when you talk about it. It's that big, thick boy.
The big, thick boy indeed. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, okay, so first of all, cool. I didn't know that gun blades were a thing in Final Fantasy. You said 9?
9, yes. Leon, aka Squall, just depending on what you want to call him, if you're a Kingdom Hearts fan first or a Final Fantasy fan first, but he uses gun blades, and it's like seriously like a sword, and it has like a revolver chamber at the bottom of it. Like
Like where you would hold it, right?
yeah. If you just want to like just Google like FF9 Gunblade.
FF9.
Oh no, sorry,
gun.
8. It's 8. Sorry, I was
Okay.
thinking 9 is Zidane and Vivi. No, it's 8.
Okay. Yeah, that's wow. No, it's straight up just like a revolver, but instead of like a barrel, it's a sword.
Yes.
That's pretty, I gotta be honest, that's really cool looking. I don't know, I'm no swordsman or anything like that, but I don't know the practicality of swinging that thing around, but tell you what, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't both pick the same thing, but we picked Final Fantasy in the same slot, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. Also, like, this is the most Shadow the Hedgehog shit I've seen in my entire life.
Yeah, yeah. This got that big Shadow the Hedgehog on GameCube energy. It's I'm a fan. I really don't see the practicality of it, but
It just doesn't compute, but that's that Tetsuo Nomura bullshit, man. Kingdom Hearts. You have my heart forever, but
to be fair, I don't think the Buster Blade's very practical either, because I can't imagine swinging that thing around,
yeah. Okay, so why did you pick the Buster Sword? Is it just like because of just pop culture relevance, or like did you have a connection to it specifically?
Nah, purely aesthetics, man. I just really like how that thing looks.
Okay.
I mean, I guess pop culture has a piece in this as well. I think um I guess, is it like the main title or what, the
Oh,
imagery
the
where
title
the
screen with
sword,
the
yeah,
sword. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
sword
That's
in the ground like that. I think that itself is pretty neat, honestly. That's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, for real. There's a lot of different, like I said, interpretations or iterations of the sword itself. I think my favorite thing is like over time. You remember how like the original like Pikachu and like his cards, like Pikachu was like fat, and then like
Yeah,
over time he's like pop culture has made him fit and in shape and thin Pikachu. That's
yeah.
exactly what happened to this sword, my guy. Like it used to be like just fat and wide, and then over time it's like let's just make it a little bit longer and a little bit more slender. I'm like, no, f you. That's not the true Buster Sword.
Give me that chunky boy.
Yeah. Well, and like they do the cool thing in the remake where they have like you can slot in the materia in there and like you see the like the little circles in it. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, is that all we have to say about Final Fantasy swords?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's time for your number 3, pal.
My number 3 is Soul Edge.
Okay, and this is Nightmare's sword, correct? Or a sword from Soul Calibur?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so that's how I knew of it. It's Nightmare Sword from Soul Calibur, but Soul Edge actually, much like the Buster Blade, comes in many different forms
Mm-hmm.
depending on the wielder, of course. But the version that I find that I associate the most with is, of course, Nightmare's version, where it's again just a real thick boy, very large in size, but also it's got like that gross fleshy tentacle stuff going on and like the
Yeah.
the evil eye.
Yep, yep, I'm seeing it here. It is just like truly, truly like, and like you're saying, there are different iterations of it too. Like there's some with teeth, which I'm just all the way out on. But the one that I identify with is the one that Nightmare carries in Soul Calibur 2.
Yes, definitely, because that's the one with the it's quite hard to explain visually, but it's got like the point and then the one side that's entirely like blade and the rest of it is all just super gross stuff, right?
Yeah, like chunky flesh, and there's like a cut out in the middle of it almost, and then there's more hilt, but it's being taken over by the fleshiness.
Yes, yes, that's the one. That's the one, Elijah. Yeah, that's peak Soul Edge right there, in my opinion.
Hey, look, I can't argue with you because Soul Calibur is literally like filled with just a bunch of swords, just all kinds of swords, and also bullshit like pogo stick killick nonsense.
Yeah, man, just fuck Killick.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you said it. Someone had to say it. Like I'm glad
That's
you could get there because that's that
that's
guy.
the takeaway. If you take away one thing from this episode, I hope it has nothing to do with swords and everything to do with Killick being just the worst.
Okay, should I say my number 3?
Yeah, lay it on me.
It is the energy sword from Halo.
Whoa, okay, cool. Yeah. Well, so I guess what puts this at number 3 for you? Because honestly, I expected this on your list, but I expected it at a higher spot.
Yeah, I guess to answer, it might be revealed as I reveal my other ones because they had way more of an impact on me personally, I would say. But
Okay.
the energy sword, so this is as high as the energy sword could get because the other two I think I'm just tied to more personally or like for nostalgia reasons. The energy sword though, I have a ton of memories with. I mean, doing the crazy like you would hit someone with the energy sword and you would like get into the passenger seat of the Warthog and like fly at a Banshee and you could fly through the space, or doing rocket canceling with the sword, or just like shoddy swords is a great mode. Swords in zombie mode in Halo, like outside of all the cool things, the applications the swords could do with like the sword lunge, just the design of it is like iconic as hell. Like I just love the way it's shaped.
Yes, I could not agree more. I feel like Halo as a whole obviously does a lot of really cool things with design,
Mhm.
but the energy sword specifically I think stands out to me at least the most in terms of weapon design. I also love that it holds like the same fundamental vibe as a lot of like the Covenant weapons, right? It has like that same sort of I guess vertical and circular kind
Like
of
round
grip.
shapeliness,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. To the well, and it's obviously designed to fit the Sangili's hands because they have like these what they have 3 fingers. Is that what they
Yeah,
have?
they've got like the weird like 3 claw thing going on.
Yeah. But yeah. Just the hilt, man. Just the hilt by itself, and like the way it pops on and it's on both sides, like it's so cool.
Yes, it also like scratches that itch for me that like the lightsabers do, right? Like where you like like the activation motion, right? Where you swing your arm down by your hip or whatever, and like suddenly the sword appears, and this has got that same exact thing going on for it.
No, it definitely does, and I could talk about the energy sword for just years, but playing Lockout in Halo 2 is a fond memory of mine. I love that map. I love, just I felt like I was very good at it, and that map has an energy sword on it. And I think that all the levels that did have an energy sword really created like this choke point. It's just like, oh, the other team has the energy sword, we better go run and get the shotgun, or like let's sprint to the energy sword first because it's a capture the flag round. Like who's going to get it and like dominate the map. And then of course one of the most iconic Halo levels that everyone remembers is Midship, and Midship has that floating sword on that like crazy like teeter-totter pillar, and you could like bounce up to it or like mess someone up by jumping on when they're trying to jump up and shoot them, and they shoot over it and then you can get up there. It was like a really weird like almost Fall Guys type moment like way before Fall Guys.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody rushes the sword.
Yeah, you rush sword. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your number 2, pal?
Oh, Elijah, you knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. It has to be on this list. I feel like it doesn't matter who you are. If you're talking about video game swords, this sword has to be brought up.
Okay.
It's the Master Sword.
All right. It is video games probably most recognizable sword. I would say, just like Batman's the most recognizable superhero, be it his symbol, his costume, his outfit, everything, it is the Master Sword that is most recognizable.
Exactly. And that's really why it made it onto my list. I think there are, I guess, cooler looking swords from just like a design perspective out there in video games. Don't get me wrong, like I like me a good Master Sword, but yeah, I mean this one's just so iconic. It's got like the King Arthur Sword in the Stone type vibe, right? You're the chosen wielder. Um, it's like you said, just immediately recognizable. I feel like if you showed a person who doesn't play video games a picture of the Master Sword, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's from the Nintendo game."
Well, it's funny, like they'll probably recognize like that sword's from Zelda and know the Triforce is Zelda before they'll know that Link's name is Link. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like knowing the hero's weapon and what it's called before you even know the hero's name, you're like, oh yeah,
That's Zelda's sword.
just like
Yeah.
what? I mean, that would be great if they gave us a game where Zelda was the hero and not Link. I would be all into that.
Me too. But yeah, no, I think it's a cool sword. From again like the legend behind it, the power that the story gives it essentially. With the chosen wielder, the sword in the stone. I would love to hear stories about 50 years from now, kids not knowing what Excalibur is, but kids knowing what the Master Sword is.
That might happen. Yeah.
It really might. Yeah. If I had to pick a favorite iteration of the Master Sword, it would have to be the one from Wind Waker. Because I really liked what they did in Wind Waker, where when you first get the sword, it's not powered up; it doesn't have its power, and like the eagle wings on it are like pointed up towards the blade itself. And then as you power it up, the eagle wings pop out, and then like the little stone in the middle glows yellow, and then of course the blade has its own shimmer on it as well afterwards. But definitely my favorite iteration of the Master Sword.
Yeah, I think maybe the sky is it the one from Skyward Sword that I think looks really cool. What's the one where it is Skyward Sword where the blade is what like the chick is the blade, right?
Yeah, Fee, yeah.
Yeah, Fee, yeah. I really like that one. I think that one just if I don't like Skyward Sword the game the most, I really like that design.
Yeah, it was a cool design, definitely.
Very
well,
cool.
What's your number 2?
Sir, my number 2 is a combination of blades from Kingdom Hearts. And if I ask you to Google them now, sir, and I'll explain them to the audience. It's you should just Google Roxas, so Roxas, Oblivion and Oathkeeper. is what you should Google there. So I want to set the scene. In Kingdom Hearts 1, the secret ending that originally only came to Final Mix, which originally only came to Japan and then came to America much, much later. So in this secret ending, they showed a hooded figure, later to be revealed to be Roxas, Sora's name rearranged with an X in it because that's how all the 13 people get their names. But it showed Roxas in this like trench coat, and he just pulled out Oblivion and Oathkeeper, two swords that Keyblades you could have got in the original Kingdom Hearts, but he was just dual wielding them. And like the idea of dual wielding Keyblades was like a revelation in the same way of a double-sided lightsaber. It was like that same kind of moment. And it's one of the most badass, like, I watched it on YouTube in the shittiest quality trailers I've ever seen in my life. And like he's like running up a building, and then like Riku's like flying down, but he's an adult and he's got like his eyes covered, and he has like lightsaber keyblades. Like it's just badass. And I will always tie Oblivion and Oathkeeper to like a Matrix level, like at the end of the Matrix level fight in Kingdom Hearts that like never really came to fruition in the games, but was just one of the coolest like bullshit, like, you know, like E3, like, check out this amazing game, and then like the trailer's sick but the game's just like sad and sucky. Not to say that Kingdom Hearts 2 is sad and sucky, it just never lived up to the hype of this moment in my head. And I still think in Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, always. So it's like this weird thing for me, like, because I love that game, but also this thing is just like way cooler than anything else in Kingdom Hearts in a way.
No, I would agree with that sentiment just because I think that the Keyblade is one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen in my life, but these are pretty neat.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, you know, like you go to the worlds and you get different keyblades that are like tied to different, like this is the ones you get in one of them you get in Holobastion. It's like the beast levels, so like the like his kind of castle
Mhm.
kind of stuff. Yeah, just like, yeah, I just think they're cool. And then he would like cross them, and then like, yeah, just Roxas is freaking sick. I love the Oblivion and Oathkeeper. They're sick, man. I love them.
Yeah, no, definitely really cool designs. I like obviously they've got like a yin yang thing going on. Especially like the hilt on what I'm going to guess is Oblivion. It's got like that much more like aggressive look to it.
Yeah, like the
Very
devil wings, and then
Mhm.
the Oathkeeper has like the angel wings.
Yeah. Yeah, very well presented, I think.
Mhm. And so, and this is where you can argue with me, like, are Keyblade swords? I mean, essentially, yeah, but you're beating the crap out of someone with a effing key. So, like, if you're gonna tell me they can't be on the list, I understand. But
No, I mean, look, they've got sharp things on it, and you hold it like a sword, right? I
yeah,
think that that would I think that that would qualify. It's got the length, the girth. It's all there.
if it looks like a sword and quacks like a sword, it might be a sword.
It might be a sword.
All right, buddy, what's your numero uno?
Well, Elijah, as you know, as our lovely listeners know, I'm a man of logic, especially when it
Mm,
comes to my lists here on the top four and more.
yes, yes.
You know, when we do our lists, oftentimes I'll I had like my SEAL Team Six of Mario sidekicks, or not sidekicks, the enemies. I had that. I have my SEAL Team Six of Pokemon that can beat yours with my Bug Team. And so, keeping it on the same train of thought here with making everything logical, I wanted the sword that deals the most damage out of all other swords in video games.
Okay, so I want to okay, is this sword okay? I want to try and guess. Is the sword from Skyrim or like the Oblivion series?
It's not.
Is it
You're
from?
not going to guess it. I promise.
It's not from like Demon Souls, or is it from like Dynasty Warriors or like?
Nope, nope. See, because when
Okay.
initially on this same train of thought here about like damage, I was like, okay, well, Blades of Chaos have literally killed gods. Like those have got to be pretty up there in damage. But this
Hmm.
one somehow does more damage.
Okay, give it to me.
It's the energy sword from Halo because it's done so much irreparable damage by leaving a Emil A239 hole shaped in my heart forever.
The setup for that was incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that this is natural talent that Brandon has on display. We are like 30 episodes deep, and like you, sir, you have surpassed me in every way. That was what a setup. I can't. That's perfect. You're perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
That's that's all I got to say about that. Honestly, we can move on to your number one.
Okay. So my number one is actually going to take aim at one of your picks. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So actually, a little setup as well. Actually, before we get to that, did you consider the Lancer from Gears of War at all?
I sure didn't. I wouldn't.
Okay.
I don't know that I'd consider that a sword because
This is
it's
a
a
gun.
chainsaw. Yeah.
It's a chainsaw. Okay, okay, okay. Because also Warhammer has like chain swords that are essentially like the Lancer, but a sword that's a chainsaw. So that was just I just wanted to bring that up in a way because I was like, is it a sword? I mean, it cuts through things. Like when someone's just like whatever is everything's a table, or this is a sandwich, or a hot pocket's just like a ravioli's just like a yeah. Like when people try to say this is like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my I don't mean to personally attack your list, Brandon, but I've decided that the Master Sword should not be called the Master Sword
Okay.
because it's far too easy to get. I feel like this thing is just chilling in the woods, and then we could stumble along. And I know, like, he's the hero of time. Maybe he's the only one who can pull it out. Like you said, the Excalibur legend. But like, I just feel like for this, like, maybe you should only get the Master Sword after you've beat like 7 of the 8 dungeons. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like you get it like halfway through, midstream. You get the sword really early. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
I won't argue that.
Okay, I'm basically saying there is no mastery required to get the mastery sword, and then that left me because I think Zelda swords are the most iconic swords in all of video games. So that's kind of where I started with my list here, and I looked at the Fierce Deity sword from Majora's Mask, and I really like the design. I really like how it shoots out those like destructo discs, like it's Krillin, like in there, just firing them out. I'm really into that, but I've decided that the sword that takes the most mastery and the most effort to get is actually the Bigoron sword from Ocarina of Time, because you have those fetch quests and like the eye lens water or whatever, you have to get there in a certain amount of time or they expire. Like, there's a lot of stuff. And in Link's Awakening, that's one of my favorite, that is my probably my favorite Zelda game. Like, it's this thing where you have this fetch quest that goes throughout the game, and you oh, hey, I got these pineapples, and then this crocodile over here wants these pineapples, and he gives you a broom, and you're like, cool, I'm gonna give the broom to the witch, and the witch is like, here's a potion bottle. You're like, cool, I'm gonna take the potion bottle to this person for a clam. And I really like those kind of fetch quests. I don't know why, I always have. And the Bigoron sword is the ultimate version of that, and it is the most ridiculous biggest sword in most of the Zelda games, and I truly enjoy it.
Yeah, you also have to be pretty into that game to be able to get that. That fetch quest is, I want to say, you might have been right on the money. It might be 6 or 7 quests in. I think you can do it right after the ice dungeon, but um yeah, that's no, literally every time I play Ocarina of Time, and I play through that game yearly, but every time I play through Ocarina of Time, as soon as I get the big Goron sword, that's it. That's all I use. Nothing else.
It's effing cool, right? Okay, and so maybe this is another discerning factor about the goodness of swords. Do you use one hand to wield it, or do you use two? Like, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like just the fact that you have to use two, there's some extra merit that goes into that without a doubt.
That's all I'm like. I don't want to crap on the Master Sword. I know how iconic it is, but I'm saying, like, you earn the Master Sword in every playthrough of Ocarina of Time before you can get the Bigoron sword.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it doesn't even do as much damage. It doesn't.
I'm
I
just saying.
respect that choice.
I'm just saying, like, they should maybe rename the Bigoron sword the Master sword, or the whatever is above Master, like
Master
the
Sword
Commander
2.
sword, the Commander sword, the God sword. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's I don't entirely disagree.
Okay, using a little thing that Brandon likes to use called logic. Well, that's all I've got this time, Brandon. Oh, swords. So good. So much fun. As always, you can check us out on projectnerd.com, of course, on the Project Nerd Gaming Network. they keep the lights on. Give Project Nerd, give some of their articles some clicks. Do that thing. Be friends with them over there. You can find us on Twitter. Brandon is at Mr. Snow97. I am at Mario RPGino. The podcast is on places like Google and Spotify and Apple. Why not listen to the podcast? If you're listening to it now, I don't know how you're listening to it other than those places. Maybe on YouTube or like, I don't know, the Himalaya app. Are we on iHeartRadio? Like what's the weirdest thing we could be on? Pandora? I don't know.
Probably Pandora. I don't know anybody who uses Pandora anymore.
Yeah, I don't know a single soul that does that. But as always, thanks for listening to the Top 4 or More podcast. Brandon, take us away.
Thank you again for listening to the Top 4 or More podcast. We'll see you again, same time, same place next week. And in case you haven't heard it yet today, you look beautiful.